Have you ever played rugby? You probably have. But do you want to improve your game? Watch my videos and you learn a bit more about rugby. Anyway, before I start, you might be a good tackler, you might be a good runner. But in rugby, the ball is the most important thing in the game. It is your life. If you lose the ball, you lose the game. But before that, there's 3 drills in my video that you must master. 3 basics: rocking, tackling, and running. Here. Running. I cannot teach you a lot about running. You do that every day. But in rugby, there's always some few basic tips that you must learn. When you run straight at a player, you get smashed. So, you might learn from that example. But in running, especially for the forwards, there is few basic tips that you must know. When you run, always run outside the player. Never run inside the player. Always step out of the player. And when you step out of the player, try a fend off. It keeps the player out of your way. Rocking. As you know, a rock is formed when a player is tackled and 2 teams compete for the ball. I know, you might have a difficulty, you might be a beginner. But beginner is always a start. Remember, there is always a bad example. And if you're part of the example, watch carefully. As you saw in the example, the player went high, and that player, the opposition player, couldn't move at all. So, if a player is that low, how are you supposed to move him? There's only one choice. Barrel roll. Barrel roll is when you run, grab the player, and you twist him around as fast as possible. Bridge. You might have difficulty driving the other player out the rock. Why don't you try a bridge? A bridge is formed when one of your teammates get tackled. And once the player is tackled, you, as a player, will put 2 hands on the player's shirt and pull your leg out. It's hard to say, so why don't you see an example? Remember, in a bridge, you must always be low. You see another example? You didn't go low enough. So when you get low enough in the bridge, no one can pass you. This is great when you're isolated. And if there's no other player around you, forward bridge. Tackling, the most fundamental part of the game. You might have difficulty tackling, you might not have. Anyway, if you don't tackle, the other team will never give you back the ball. Tackling is where you put your arms around the other player's hips and you drag them down the floor. Remember, better to grab the hips and push them forward. Because if you push them forward, you gain momentum. Momentum is very important in the game. But before that, let me explain to you a bit about tackling. Remember, when you're tackling, don't run straight at the player. The player won't run at you. He always makes you steps. He always try to fend off you. He'll try everything. But don't run right at the attacker.